Okay, so welcome everybody to another webinar from the Leeds Theosophical Society. This is the 28th of March 2021, and I'd like to welcome Pam Evans MBE from Swansea, who is speaking with us for the first time. I think this is the first time, Pam. Yes,
it is.
And so very welcome. And the topic is the 3 basic points of theosophy, so very mainstream. And apparently it's based on your book, How the Wisdom of the Ages is Reflected in Many World Faiths, which I'm sure you'll mention along the way. And so for which you got the MBE, and you work with a peace marler that you started, and I think you mentioned after the 9/11 disaster. So without further ado, Pam, over to you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you. I'd like to mention at the beginning here gratitude actually to the Blavatsky Trust, because it was the Blavatsky Trust that actually published this little book. Here it is, what Paul mentioned earlier on, and that all proceeds from sales of this little book go straight into the Peace Marler Educational Charity, which is doing great stuff with schools across the United Kingdom. And we've also got our first school in Florida, America. So, okay, coming to the little book, it's very interesting how this came about, actually. I was approached by the Theosophical Society many years ago. Could I help out with some seminars? And so I put together these ideas then. And it wasn't actually until, I think it was the summer before last, before lockdown and all of this business, that I was approached again about these notes, these ideas, to get them published. And so there we are, this has happened. So what have I attempted to do? I've taken 3 what I feel are very, very important topics that theosophy deals with in a very, very profound way. And with my own background and knowledge in world religions, I thought, like, let's see how these marry up. What are there similarities here? Are there surprises? And the first topic that I look at is what people generally call God. And what on earth is God? And I think here in the Western world, those of us who've been influenced by the Christian religion with the Lord's Prayer, as we know it now, gives a very unhelpful misunderstanding of what we mean by God. And I'm going to come to that in a little while. But let's have a look, first of all, at what theosophy has to say. And so, to put it very, very succinctly, I've come up with this. The first point that I'm aware of with theosophy is that they speak of the oneness, and that theosophy reveals that humankind is essentially a spirit, a unit of, but inseparable from the all-pervading spirit which energizes all matter. Now that's quite a profound statement. This spirit then has been recognized by all the great religions under the name of God, or the divine, or the absolute. There are different terms are used to try and explain what this is. And interestingly now, at this present time, so-called materialistic science then is unraveling the secrets of the world of matter from sub-atom to galaxy, and it's moving more and more. Scientific knowledge is coming out with an idea of a oneness throughout the whole cosmos, and that there is a unity of existence, and that seems to fit in with what theosophy teaches. And I feel that as human beings gain more inner self-knowledge, they will begin to realize their own identity with this universal essence and coming up with different words, different expressions to try and explain the same thing, because it really is quite impossible to give a clear and accurate explanation of what do we mean by God or the divine or the absolute. Now then, the great mystical traditions of the world, the mystics talk of, when they understand this, that there is a feeling of absolute, wow, liberation. All fear leaves the consciousness, because they then know and understand what this divine essence is, or this oneness that permeates the whole cosmos. And they say with it comes this liberation and an illumination. It's as if a huge light has been switched on in the darkness. The Buddhist path, for example, speaks of becoming enlightened. It's the same thing. It's suddenly understanding the truth of what this cosmos is and how we are part of it. Trying to make sense of, who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? What on earth is this all about? I'm sure everybody here this afternoon, like me, when I was a young child, these were the very questions that I asked. And nobody could answer me. Nobody in my family could explain. Right, esoteric philosophy that we find in the mystical traditions and religions of the world, they teach that this one life pervades the whole of visible nature, and that the total universe or cosmos includes invisible modes of being, which are animated by the one life. Now, I don't know whether you've caught all of that I've said, but this is what I understand. This is what Theosophy teaches. Now then, let's have a look at some of the other world religions. Do they agree with this? Now, when I was studying theology as a student, in those days, it was Judo-Christianity. That was the main stuff. But we were given an opportunity to choose a religion or a spiritual path outside of the Abrahamic traditions. And I don't know why I did, but for some reason, I chose Hinduism, or Satanam Dharma, which is the more correct term for it. And it was very, very difficult in those days to get hold of information. There was hardly anything. Internet didn't exist. There wasn't a main Hindu temple in London, and on it goes and on it goes. But eventually, piece by piece and bit by bit, I started gathering information about this incredible spiritual tradition. And I have to share with you, it completely blew my mind away, because that was like a light going on. And I thought, wow, this is helpful. And so, what does this path teach us then? Well, what I've looked at is one of the oldest Hindu scriptures in the world, the Rig Veda. And this speaks about the one life recognized as transcending all human categories. And because of this, it's referred to, it's not given a gender, because of course God does not have a gender. And so it uses impersonal terms like it or that, which might sound rude, but it's not meant to be. So this God.
And now I can't.
Oh, hello.
Hello, Pam. Sorry to interrupt. I got the lovely man next door to come and help me. I couldn't do
All
it.
right, okay, Muriel.
I'll shut up.
Okay.
Thank you, Toby.
Okay.
Bless you.
Okay.
Oh,
right.
God.
I thought you were going to come in with some great revelation, Muriel. I'm
Listen,
sure you will at the end.
The flaming revelation is I got on. That's it.
Okay.
Sorry. I'll shut up
Okay,
now.
no problem.
Oh.
Right, so coming back to what's written in the Rig Veda then. God, or the one, has many attributes and functions and is therefore called by a variety of different names. So one of the big ones that is used is Brahman, B-R-A-H-M-A-N, Brahman, which is the universal soul, which is the complete consciousness of the entire universe, or universes, because they go on and on. Brahman. And it's uncreated, it's limitless, it's all embracing, and it's eternal. Now, this is a bit mind-blowing, but when I came across this, I thought, this is interesting. And it underlies all existence and animates all living beings. And within the innermost self of each individual, there is another wonderful word here, something called Atman, A-T-M-A-N, Atman. And this Atman is the subtle essence of Brahman, the all-pervading everything. So the suggestion is that Atman is in everything, everything sentient and more. Now then, this is beginning to suggest to us that God then is the all-pervading. You know, children try to think, where is God? Or they might look up in the sky and think of God as something separate. It isn't. It's not at all. It's actually here within us. Right, I'll go on. There's a lot here. I'll try my best to see if I can get through to you the wonderful teachings coming from Hinduism. So then Atman, it's different from both the personality and the self, right? It's not that. It is nothing less than the eternal that is within us, a constant amidst the ever-changing activities of the universe and things that are changing with us from moment to moment to moment. But this Atman is constant. It's a subtle essence that is, as I said earlier on, Brahman, or the great spirit of the whole cosmos. So I don't know whether I hope you're beginning to follow where I'm coming from. And it fits in perfectly with what Theosophy teaches. Okay, now then, a person's realization of the identity and unity of Atman and Brahman is believed to bring about something called liberation or moksha. Because at that moment, when you begin to realize this truth, you are suddenly freed from all restraints of the mind and the body, which transcends all distinctions. We think we're separate, don't we? And in one sense we are, but in another sense, we're not. Because we are all part of this incredible matrix of consciousness. Right, I'll carry on. So getting your head around this and realizing this ultimate truth, it's not easy. It's not an easy task at all. And there's another Upanishad that likens the learning, getting your head around this and understanding is like crossing an ocean of suffering. This terminology is used in Buddhism as well. So the Upanishads, and I know we've got Atma is here with us somewhere. Atma Trazi knows more about the Upanishads than I do. And he gave a wonderful talk in Theosophical Summer School many years ago about the Upanishads. But these wonderful teachings, they were composed from about the 6th century BCE onwards. And within them, again, they keep talking about a cosmic spirit. We're coming up with different terms, aren't we, to try and explain this God Right. So this cosmic spirit then, the Upanishads tell us, it's infinite. There's no ending to it. It's benevolent. That's good to know. It's deathless. And it has no beginning and it has no end. So this is a constant. It's always been here. Whatever it is, it's always been here. It will always be here. And that suggests, when you start thinking about it, that's us as well. In some form or another, we have always existed. It's quite mind-blowing. Quite mind-blowing. When I came across this as a student of theology, I thought, wow, never thought of that. So this final transcendent truth then, it is the ultimate consciousness which animates all conscious beings. Yeah, it's a vast ageless ocean of which everything that is experienced is only a wave. Now, these are mind-blowing concepts as far as I'm concerned. But when I encountered those teachings all those years ago, for me, this was a huge revelation. Because in my childhood upbringing within the Anglican Church of Wales, none of this was ever touched on. Nothing was explained at all. In fact, at the age of 11, I stopped going to church because they couldn't answer my questions in Sunday school. And they just told me, well, you've got to believe it. It's in the Bible. And as I said to my father, that's insulting my intelligence. And it was. But of course, most Sunday school teachers are not properly trained anyway. And if they have a literal understanding of biblical stuff, it's very limited. Right, so I've tried to explain what theosophy says about the oneness, the absolute, the almighty, the all-pervading everything. And Hinduism fits up with it perfectly, which isn't a surprise. Anyone who's studied theosophy knows that in the Secret Doctrine, we've got a lot of Sanskrit terminology coming in, and Madame Blavatsky was, we know, profoundly influenced by Hinduism and Buddhism. In fact, when I first came across theosophy, I thought, that sounds very Hindu to me, and then, oh, that sounds very Buddhist. So there's a lot of influence. Now then, my little book, there are some other symbols on there. And in this little book, there's a code and a guide where you find where to go. So I chose, beyond theosophy, I definitely chose Buddhism because I knew there was going to be something in Buddhism and Hinduism that would fit in with theosophy as an obvious. But I then thought, well, what about the Abrahamic faiths? What about Judaism? What about Christianity? What about Islam? Does any of this stuff fit, work? Okay, I'm going to leap straight into Christianity now, which is something that most of us are familiar with, those of us who've grown up here in the United Kingdom. This is the basic religious culture we've grown up in. And so what did I do? I went straight to the Lord's Prayer, as we know it, which to my mind causes confusion a lot. And a number of years ago, some of you know that I'm an associate of the Society of the Sacred Cross, Timawr Convent in Monmouthshire, which is a community of Cistercian nuns. And they're wonderful. They're all embracing. Everybody's welcome. They've got no issues with anything. And I was leaving Timawr one particular day, and one of the young nuns came running after me. And she said, Pam, before you go, are you aware of this? And I looked at what she showed me, and I said, well, I know the icon. It's one of my favorites. That's Christ of the Desert by an American Franciscan, Robert Lenz. I said, I love it. I have that icon. I love it. Yes, but she said, are you aware of the book? And I said, no, what on earth? Oh, she said, do get it. Prayers of the Cosmos by Dr. Neil Douglas Klotz. So I ordered the book, and I was actually flying to New York, and I started reading it. And I have to tell you that by the end of my flight to New York, I was, wow, in the same way that I found Hinduism a huge light bulb going on, I felt the same way about this. Now, I've been in communication with Neil for permission to use some of his stuff in this little book here. And Neil has done the most astonishing research into the ancient Aramaic and the Syriac. He's spent time with the Sufis and all sorts of Middle Eastern communities to try and understand what was the actual message of Jesus, or more accurately, Yeshua. What was his message for the world? And so if we look, first of all, at the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, which was the language that Jesus spoke, suddenly what is being said is nothing like the English translation we've been given. Because if we look at the English translation, how does it start off? Our Father, who art in heaven. Let's just take that. What does that conjure up in one's mind? Especially if you're a child. Well, first of all, it's given God a gender. Father. Is that accurate? In heaven. Where is heaven? That's sort of indicating or suggesting a separateness. Yeah? Not here with us. It's somewhere else. Now then, if we look at what Neil Douglas Klotz has to say with the Aramaic, with his research, he tells us this. The major traditions of the Middle East, so we're talking Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, what we call the Abrahamics, probably stem from the same source and language. All originally called God, here it is, El, E-L, or Al, A-L. What does that mean? Translated into English, it means that, or the one. Nothing about our Father, right? That or the one. And this comes from a root which comes out of the name Elat, which is Old Canaanite. Or, I'm sure some of you have heard this, Elohim. Baruch atah Elohim, and on it goes. In Hebrew or Aramaic, Allah, Allah. And in Arabic, Allah. None of them have a gender. All of them are suggesting the one. Okay, we come to the Lord's Prayer and it's lost a lot of its original meaning. And so in this wonderful book, which I must recommend to you, Prayers of the Cosmos, reflections on the original, the Aramaic words, of meditations and teachings of Jesus from the Aramaic, it is absolutely astonishing. And he's done more since then. Another one I would recommend is a Danish writer called Lars Muhl. And I don't know if you can see that, but he again has done astonishing work into the Aramaic teachings. And this is the law of light, the secret teachings of Jesus. Okay, so the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, well, actually, it would have been chanted not spoken. And if any of you know anything about how Jewish men in particular, when they pray, it's a body prayer. They rock. You might have seen some men at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. So they pray with their whole body and spirit. And this would have been done. So the Aramaic prayer then, it starts off with Abuun, Abuun, de Boashmaya, Abuun, de Boashmaya, Neskwadashmak, Tete Malkusa, Nechwe Tevana, I can have de Boashmaya Aspaha. Haulan lachmad usuna yaomana, wash boy klan koiban, wachatayin. I cannot afknan, and on it goes, and on it goes. And with it comes a vibrational energy. But what is it saying? What does it mean? And what Neil has done in his research, and Lars Moule as well, he has explained that Aramaic has layers and layers and layers of meaning. It is so complicated. And even from the first line, Abun de Boashmaya, this is speaking about our birth in unity within the whole cosmos. And one possible translation that Neil has given is this: O Bertha, Father, Mother of the cosmos, you create all that moves in light. O thou, the breathing life of all, creator of the shimmering sound that touches us, respiration of all worlds, we hear you, breathing in and out in silence, source of sound in the roar and the whisper, in the breeze and the whirlwind. We hear your name, radiant one. You shine within us. Outside us, even darkness shines when we remember. Name of names, our small identity unravels in you. You give it back as a lesson. Wordless action, silent potency, where ears and eyes awaken, there heaven comes. O Bertha, Father, Mother of the cosmos. That's just the first line. Can you imagine how mind-blowing this is? It's absolutely incredible. So from the Aramaic teachings of Jesus, there's a totally different understanding of what the absolute is. It is profound, it is cosmic, it is all pervading, and we are part of it, and we are linked, and this is what Jesus taught. And sadly, in most Christian churches today, in the Western world particularly, this concept of the divine or the almighty just isn't shared. You go to a church, most churches, and the people are not connecting with the divine spark that is within themselves, which links them with the all-pervading divine essence of the whole cosmos. We are linked. We are not separate. So I think that's a bit of a revelation when you go into the Aramaic, the original teachings of Jesus, which, the way I look at it, links a lot with what Theosophy has said and with what the Hindu tradition has said. Okay, so, and I think if we go into the mysticism of Judaism and Islam, we will find exactly the same. It's so sad that a lot of this information has been lost or hidden or buried or whatever. Now is the time to bring it out into the light, put the spotlight on and say, hang on, look at this, wow. They're saying the same thing, but in a slightly different way. So, my dear friends, we are all part of the divine. We are all part of this great matrix of incredible intelligence and life that has always existed and always will. And I think that's quite mind-blowing to think, well, if I am part of this divine consciousness of the whole cosmos, then I've always existed in some form. Which brings me on to the next topic in the book. Reincarnation. Okay, so if I've always existed, then do I have any memory of this? Have I always existed? Good grief. And if I have, who was I, etc., etc. So first of all, I'm watching the clock here because I know I've got to try and get through all of this stuff in an hour, and there's a heck of a lot to get through, but bear with me, I'm trying, and I hope you're following me. So Theosophy was the next, sorry, not Theosophy, reincarnation was the next big topic that I chose. And so first of all, what does Theosophy tell us? What does it teach? Okay, so from what I understanding, this is it. This is the essence of what Theosophy shares with us. While the forms of life, forms in which life manifests itself are temporal, we all know we're not going to be here forever. You, Muriel, me, Pam, and everybody else. No, there's a limited time of existence in this body here in this dimension. We know that. That's obvious. However, Theosophy teaches us that life itself, or spirit, or essence, is everlasting. And that means us as well. It particularizes itself in the individual human as an individual unit of consciousness. That's quite a bit of a mind-blowing statement. I think one has to think about that. What does that mean? So, right, this unit unfolds its spiritual powers by successively assuming physical bodies, passing through birth to death to birth many times. And the nature of the individual in each incarnation, his or her personality and circumstances, are determined by the individual's actions and experiences in previous lives. So what are we talking about now? Something that Theosophy calls karma, K-A-R-M-A. We're all familiar with that, I think. What is karma? It is the law of action and reaction. And it is a just law. In other words, whatever we think, whatever we say, whatever we do has an energy, and it has an outcome. Nothing goes into a void. Everything matters. And I think if people began to realize that, they might wake up a bit. We are responsible for our own lives. Now then, if I go a little more deeply into Hinduism, looking at what the Bhagavad Gita has to say and one of the Upanishads, we get a little bit more depth about this now. So, from the Bhagavad Gita, here's a quote. As a man casting off worn out garments taketh new ones, so the dweller in the body, casting off worn out bodies, entereth into others that are new. That's the Bhagavad Gita. Then the Katha Upanishad says this, like corn, a man ripens and falls to the ground. Like corn, he springs up again in his season. So to the Hindu then, the soul is essentially stuck in a never-ending cycle of rebirth, which can never be broken due to the continual need to balance one's karma. So that is why we keep returning here. It's because of the karmic deeds, and it's what we are creating. Yeah, and we keep returning. In effect, with each incarnation into the flesh, the human personality, which is a byproduct of the underlying soul or spirit that birthed it, accumulates a degree of what we might call bad karma that we have to work off in order to restore balance. Now, that's very simplistic. If we wanted to go into that in more depth, there's a heck of a lot more that Hinduism teaches us, but that's the essence of it. What about Buddhism? Well, I have studied Tibetan Buddhism for many years. I have found it profound and very, very, very helpful. And outside of Tibetan Buddhism, many years ago, I came across this book. I'm recommending lots of books to you, but they are all very, very interesting. This one here, which I hope you can see.
Yeah.
Reborn in the West, Reincarnation Masters, Vicky Mackenzie, who's a journalist. And she landed up in Nepal with two very well-known Tibetan lamas to learn about this. And one of the things that she'd never really thought about deeply before was this whole concept of rebirth, reincarnation. And so the monks, the lamas, told her and other students with her, you did not begin in this life, right? That's a bit of a shock to some people. You're conscious of who you are now. It didn't start there, you know. That wasn't the start of it. Your present life, you've lived here many times before, stretching back into beginningless time. That's the expression used by Buddhists, beginningless time. And they told her, you will have more lives, many more to come, many, many lives in the future. And they explained again about karma, the actions that we commit. And we have to pay back. Whatever we have done, we have to deal with. Nothing goes into a vacuum. Okay. And oh yes, and of course at the point of death, what happens around that event, shall we say, is so important. It's when the mind consciousness separates from the physical body. And then we're on another journey. All right, I won't go into too much of that at the moment, but coming back then. So, all right, Buddhism. So at the time of Siddhartha Gautama, Prince Siddhartha, he grew up, of course, in an Indian Hindu culture. Shakyamuni Buddha, Buddhists call him, because there have been many, many Buddhas, of course, but Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha of this age, then the teaching that was going around at the time was that the soul, or the Atman, I referred to that, didn't I, earlier on, the divine spark within us, the Atman then, being trapped in samsara. Some of you may have come across that word, which means the karmic cycle of rebirth. We are in this samsaric realm. So Prince Siddhartha Gautama then, who was born of Hindu, he made it his life's quest to find a way to break this endless wheel of suffering and countless births. And I'm sure you're very familiar with his life. After many hardships and trials, he eventually reached the awakened state of enlightenment and claimed he'd found the answer. And he said that by transforming, now this is very important, these Buddhist teachings, by transforming greed, hatred, and ignorance into non-attachment, compassion, and wisdom, each person is capable of finding release from the suffering in samsara. And his teaching, you may be aware of it, called the Noble Eightfold Path. He explained the importance of wisdom, morality, and meditation. Meditation. I haven't come on to that yet. This is very important. So, according to the Buddha, following the Noble Path is like entering a dark room with a light in your hand, and the darkness will be cleared away and the room will be filled with light. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty good to me. That's exciting, because we do stumble around in this life, and there are periods of depression, anxiety, fear, loss of hope. And I think during this period of lockdowns within this pandemic, there's been a lot of that, a lot of it. But according to the Buddha, there is something beyond all this. Okay. Now, one of the most well-known Buddhist scriptures is called the Dhammapada. And this is what the Buddha said. What we are today comes from our thoughts of yesterday. And our present thoughts build our life for tomorrow. Our life is the creation of our mind. If a man speaks or acts with an impure mind, suffering will follow him as the wheel of a cart follows the beast that draws the cart. If a man speaks or acts with a pure mind, joy follows him as his shadow. So if we are immersed in constant negativity, we are creating more negativity for ourselves. We don't realize it. Yeah. If we are constantly complaining or fearful or whatever, all the negative emotions, we are attracting that energy to ourselves and we are perpetuating it. You're not going to get out of it. So we have to wake up. Now then, although Buddhists believe in cause and effect, karma, they do not believe that there is total continuity between one life and the next. And for this reason, they don't use the word reincarnation. Now, I'm possibly nitpicking here, but I want to bring it up, which means reincarnation means to become flesh again. And it implies the entry of a soul into a sequence of bodily existences. Buddhists prefer the term rebirth, right? They believe that one life is caused by the next in the same way that a flame from a candle causes a second flame. The two flames are not the same, but the first flame provides the cause for the second. So a person in one life is both continuous with, yet different from the person in the next life. Now, that's very important. Think about that. This continuity is also a feature within one lifespan. Think about it. We die to the last moment and are reborn into this moment. It's an ongoing process of constant change and connectedness through causation. This is awfully important. We are constantly creating our lives. From moment to moment, from day to day, we are in the driving seat. It's up to us. And Another thing that Buddhists refer to is something called dependent arising or interdependent origination. Everything is linked. Everything is linked. This is terribly important. Everything is linked. We are not separate entities. Now, I'm looking at the time, trying to get through this. Is a heck of a lot here. Sorry, kids, you're on a roller coaster. Anyway, I want to now tap into something, again, unexpected, because the symbols in my book, I've got the Abrahamic faiths. And you're saying, okay, Pam, yeah, you're going to find theosophy in Hinduism. You're going to find it in Buddhism. Yeah. You're not going to find that stuff in Islam, are you? Well, okay. Let's have a think about this. You ask any ordinary Muslim or most imams, and they would say to you, no. The idea of reincarnation, no. We don't believe that stuff. We have one life, and then we will either go to paradise or some other terrible place, and then there's the end of days and the last judgment and the goodness knows, and there it is. Okay, wait a moment. I'm going to share with you from the Holy Quran, Surah 2:28, and you tell me, what do you think this is saying? This is the Holy Quran. God generates, Allah, of course, this would be in Arabic, but I'm going to use the word God for now. Generates beings and sends them back over and over again until they return to him. How can you make denial of Allah, who made you live again when you died, will make you dead again and then alive again until you finally return to him? Excuse me, what on earth? I don't know about you, but to me, that sounds very much like rebirth and reincarnation. It would be great if we had an imam with us or a sheikh and say, okay, how do you explain that? Because to me, that throws up something. Now, I'm sure lots of you are aware of the Sufi mystics. And when we go into the mystical traditions of these Middle Eastern faiths, different information is coming up from your mainstream Islam. So some of you, I'm sure, are aware of the 13th century poet Jalal al-Din Muhammad Rumi, the wonderful, wonderful Rumi who lived from 1207 to 73. Now, the Sufi mystics, and I'm linked with them personally, some of you know that, consider themselves the custodians of the true teaching of their prophet, which they understood to advocate universal brotherhood. And sadly, there are some Muslims who denounce them as heretics. I read something on social media the other day. Somebody had come back from Turkey and had spent time studying Islam out there. And apparently some imam here in Britain had said, Turkey? There are no Muslims in Turkey. They're all Sufis. Oh dear, dear. Anyway, okay. So some Muslims don't like the Sufis, which is very sad. I'm going to take a quote from Rumi, and here it is. Like grass, I have grown over and over again. I passed out of mineral form and lived as a plant. From a plant, I was lifted up to be an animal. Then I put away the animal form and took on a human shape. Why should I fear that if I died, I shall be lost? My goodness, that's taken it on to another dimension. And those of us who understand the teachings of Theosophy, that fits perfectly the way I see it. After Rumi's death, his followers founded the Mevlevi order, or the whirling dervishes. Maybe some of you have seen them. And the Naqshbandi Tariqat, the golden chain of the Naqshbandis, have been very involved with the Peace Mala project over the years. And some of you who've been involved with our big interfaith ceremonies will remember seeing the whirling dervish under the majestas of the Christ in Llandaf Cathedral, and that was wonderful and astonishing. Right, I'm watching the clock. I'm not going to get through every topic here, not within, I'm trying my best. What about Judaism? Judaism? Do you think Judaism teaches reincarnation, rebirth? Nah, surely not. I remember my good friend Norma Glass, who is an Orthodox Jew, and I first pulled this topic up with her many, many moons ago. Oh, good gracious, no, we don't believe that. Mind you, Norma and I have had lots of debates since then, so she's sort of changing her mind a bit. But anyway, okay, so let's say modern Orthodox Judaism rejects the possibility of reincarnation in the same way that mainstream Islam would reject it. Here's a strange thing. Traditional Jewish services feature prayers asking for forgiveness for sins committed in both the present life and in previous incarnations. Excuse me, what on earth is that? Huh? And of course, the Jewish mystics, some of you study the Kabbalah, and of course the Zohar is the most important book teaching compiled in 80 CE, published by Rabbi Moses de Leon in 1280. Listen to this. This is what this rabbi has to say. All souls are subjects to the trials of transmigration. And then men do not know the designs of the Most High with regard to them. They do not know how many transmigrations and mysterious trials they must undergo. I'm sorry, I interpret that as rebirths. According to Kabbalistic traditions, each human soul is a spark of the divine, which acquires bodies of increasing density during its descent into matter. Each individual comprises 4 elements: a physical body, a psyche, a vital soul, and the divine spark. That's interesting. Theosophy teaches us that we have many bodies. And then here is another rabbi, Yonasan Gershom, who brought out an incredible, earth-shattering book called Beyond the Ashes, Cases of Reincarnation from the Holocaust. Wow, this is incredible. And in his book, he has found evidence from many, many people who have memories of former lives linked to the Holocaust. I'm not going to go into it now, it's too much, but it's a mind-blowing book that this particular rabbi has investigated. And then we have Isaac Luria, a 16th century rabbi, one of the greatest Jewish mystics of all time, taught reincarnation, as did Israel ben Eliezer, known as Baal Shem Tov, who founded, some of you are aware of the Hasidic Jews. And then there is a Lubavitcher prayer, a Hasidic prayer. I use another strange prayer. What do you make of this? Anyone, they ask for forgiveness, and I forgive anyone who has angered me or vexed me in this incarnation or any others. Excuse me, what is this? Okay. I'm looking at the clock. We're running out of time, folks. I want very, very quickly, I can't leave this out. This is terribly important. I'm coming on to the Christian tradition. Right. The early Christian church, right. Reincarnation of the old prophets. Who is this? Somebody, or somebody's got to leave. Ah, the Festival of Holi. It is today, the Hindu festival. Reincarnation of the old prophets was on the mind of Jews at the time of Jesus, okay? In fact, followers of Jesus thought that he was a reincarnated prophet. The Jews were awaiting the arrival of their Messiah, whose appearance would be announced by the prophet Elias or Elijah. Here's a quote from Matthew's Gospel. What do you make of this? When Jesus came into Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Whom do men say I, the Son of Man, am?" And they said, "Some say thou art John the Baptist. Some say you are Elias, and some others say you are Jeremiah, or one of the prophets." What's all that about? Reincarnation was a core concept in the early years of Christianity. And a number of the early Christian church fathers believed in it and wrote about it. And we are running out of time, but I'm going to mention some of these. You can look them up or get my little book. We have Justin Martyr. He stated that the soul inhabits more than one human body. Origen, who was considered by St. Jerome as the greatest teacher of the church after the apostles, he defended the idea that the soul exists before the body, fundamental to the concept of reincarnation. Then we've got St. Gregory, and on it goes. We've got St. Augustine. I'm whizzing through this lot now. There's a whole load of them who taught this belief. So what happened? Why doesn't the Christian church teach this today? Well, those of you who know anything about the history of the Christian church will know that eventually it became the official religion of the Roman Empire. And when that happened, everything changed. Prior to that happening, we had female priests. We had a lot of stuff going on before it became the official religion of the Roman Empire. And we have this character, Emperor Justinian. Look him up. Okay. In 545 of the Common Era, this particular emperor was able to apply the full power of Rome and his authority to stop the belief in reincarnation. And he forced the ruling cardinals to draft a papal decree to that effect. Now, it's very fascinating what happened actually, because we have Pope Vigilus at the time refusing to sign this. There was an almighty rumpus in the early church. Origen, poor soul, never became a saint because of all this rumpus, and let him be anathema, and on it goes. There was an almighty rumpus at this point in time. The actual decree says, if anyone asserts the fabulous pre-existence of souls and shall assert the monstrous restoration which follows from it, let him be anathema. So, by hook or by crook, this was passed through, and it now became a heresy punishable by death. Now, I wonder why that happened. Maybe somebody, we're coming over now to 3 o'clock, which is opening up to a point where we can start discussing some of these. Why did the church do that? I've got my theories. We haven't gone on to the last topic, I'm afraid. I didn't think we'd get there, which is about what happens after death, where I look at what theosophy says, what Hinduism says, Buddhism and the Bardos, what Judaism says, what Christianity and Islam says, and finally, of course, the amazing stuff that is being done into NDEs. I'll just touch on it before we begin our discussion, but some of you are aware of the work done by Dr. Penny Satori, who lives here in Swansea. This is astonishing. The wisdom of near-death experiences. So Penny did her doctorate in this. She worked for years in as a nurse in intensive care, witnessed a lot of death. So there's that. She's done another book since that.
Tim Wyatt may well have referred to this work because he's just produced a book on death.
I know.
Sure.
And I know that Tim, in his talk, Paul, mentioned this amazing book too. And I've actually been in touch with Eben Alexander for permission to mention him in this little book. And this is incredible. Proof of Heaven, a neurosurgeon's journey into the afterlife. Dr. Eben Alexander. Yes, Tim said that this blew him away. It is a fantastic book and well worth reading. Right, folks, I've run out of time.
So,
but it's over to you now.
Thank you very much indeed. And I have actually ordered the 2 books that you've mentioned, or 2 of the books.
Oh, good. Good. I
Praise
hope you're
of
going to
Cosmos
get
and
this
Law of
little
Light.
one as well, Paul.
Yes, we'll get one for the lodge.
Yeah. You can get that through Peace Marler. Somebody did bring up the Peace Marler website or mentioned it. So info@peacemarler.org.uk. Just drop us a line and we can get this little book off to you.
How much is it?
It's meant to stimulate discussion and encourage further research.
How much is it?
£4.
Oh gosh.
£3.99, £4 plus whatever the postage is. It's not expensive. And as I said, all of the money from this goes into the Peace Marler educational charity. Good.
Okay, so
not to the author. I don't have a penny. I don't want it.
So okay, I think somebody's raised their hand. So if they want to unmute themselves, and we'll can ask a question.
Hi, can I speak? Am I okay to speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Pam, that was brilliant. I hope that wasn't new to everybody because they'll be on the floor by now. And I really must say thank you for the chanting. That was extraordinary. I loved it.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, I didn't do all of it. I didn't do the complete prayer because I was conscious of running out of time. But I just wanted to have a little bit of an idea.
It was wonderful. Thank you for that. But where to start? I mean, there's so much to touch on. And one thing I would like to touch on is as you know, the Bhagavad Gita predates the Bible by, it's said to be about 7,000 years actually, but there's a point in there where Krishna says to Arjuna, the difference between you and I, Arjuna, is that I remember my past lives and you don't. I mean, that's a cracker for a start. And I mean, the idea of God as being something separate, if you think of God as being, you ask the question, where is God? If you say there is nowhere that God is not. And certainly in the Hindu tradition, God is everywhere. Everything is God. There is nothing else but God. And that's quite refreshing when you kind of think about that. And the other point is in the Catholic faith, they talk about original sin, which you think that's dreadful. A baby can't have original sin. What is it if it isn't karma? original sin is what you come in with as karma. And we tend to think of karma as being something bad that we have to make up for bad deeds, but people forget that there is good karma, and we reap the benefits of our good karma as well. You know, I mean, I've sort of touched on many of the things that you've spoken about, and I've had experiences that prove to me that these things happen, even the near-death experience. And my near-death experience was something I've never read about in any of those books, because my experience was the same as the Tibetan Buddhism teachings, which I don't really want to go into at the moment. But, you know, the Buddhists have the truth of one aspect. Well, I mean, they've got lots of truths in there, but, you know, what you've touched on, I've understood everything that you've said and experienced a lot of what you said, and I really appreciate your efforts, because that was a marathon. And you did so well to get as much out as you did. I'll leave it, let somebody else have a go.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. From a personal perspective, in my own spiritual journey, I have found Tibetan Buddhism to be so helpful. So helpful. Makes a lot of sense. It really does. And we know, we are told that Madame Blavatsky was in Tibet with the masters, learning all this stuff, which has influenced what's come through into the secret doctrine, of course. So there's an awful lot of wisdom, profound wisdom in the Eastern traditions. But there's a lot of wisdom in the Western stuff as well that sadly has been buried.
Yes, and misinterpreted.
Can I ask a question? You know, we got as far as that Emperor Justinian making it illegal now, a heresy, punishable by death. And from there on in, it's not to be taught in the Christian church. So would anyone like to offer up why they think that happened?
Okay.
It's a power thing.
Muriel, yes.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi, Muriel.
Can you hear me? Well, first of all,
Muriel,
let me thank you so much. That was a splendid lecture. I'm sure we'll all agree. A lot of stuff I wanted to touch on, a lot of stuff I knew, a lot of stuff I didn't. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Oh, so many things. But Justinian, I heard that it was his wife that had been a bit of a gal and didn't like the idea of what she'd done that she'd have to pay for. Now, I can't remember where I heard that. It was a long time ago. Therefore, he was influenced by her. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I remember.
Could be. And that seems to ring a bell with me, with Tim Wyatt, many moons ago, having said something about that when I was having a chat with him. But when you think about it, if the law of karma is a truth, and if rebirths or reincarnation, whatever you want to call it, is a truth, we are in control of our own destiny.
Yes.
So there's no point in going to a priest for confession and absolution and goodness knows, because at the end of the day, it's back to us.
Yeah. Well, that was it.
We are in the driving seat. It's when people realize that, that's very empowering. You are responsible for your own destiny.
Absolutely. But you know, Pam, they wanted control of people. When you have control of people, you have to go through the priest. It takes away your power, doesn't it? And they wanted control. I was just thinking how different it would be if these teachings were known in our local church. People would have a different perspective on life, I'm sure. You know, I'm a member of the Essene group, the original Nazarenes, the Holy Ones. And what you were saying about the equality of women were in the group, of course, and reincarnation, all that was taught. And the Vatican knows about this. When we've heard Petra speak, and I've known people that have been in the Vatican, found evidence, it would change our whole view of Christianity. It would be of Jesus and the teachings, the equality of women would be so different from the stuff that's been passed down, you know. The other thing I loved you saying, you know, coming to our essence, because our ego, full of fear, personality and all the rest of it, but if we can take that away and get to our essence, who we really are, not our physical body or our mind, but that essence that we're all a part of, you know, it helps us to perhaps live life in a different way and look at life totally differently.
I think so, Muriel. And I think also, certainly within Theosophy and many other traditions, people are taught to meditate.
Yes.
To learn how to still the whole mind down.
Yes.
And then focus on the divine spark,
within,
essence, soul, whatever you want to call it, that is eternal within us and that is linked directly with the Almighty, the Absolute, whatever you want to call it. And if we can meditate on that divine spark, the Atman within us, and realize, hang on, I've always existed and I always will because I am part of God. But we all are.
you know,
that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing. If people could realize that we are all linked, we are all part of this divine cosmic matrix of everything.
Well, when I was in the European School of Theosophy, the professors there from California were the quantum physicists and so on, were just saying how spirituality and quantum physics are together. We're all interrelated. We're all part of the one, you know, we're not separate. I know we're separate personalities, but our inner essence, we're all part. The leaves on the trees, our animals, we're all part of the one, having that experience.
I think also, you know, if this understanding could come through education, it would generate more compassion.
Oh, yes.
And more caring, where we would not hurt each other, not hurt animals, not destroy the rainforests and the environment, that we would care because it's all linked. Everything is linked. And if we, well, David Attenborough said enough, hasn't he, that we the humans are a plague on the planet. We are destroying everything, not the animals. The animals, everything would be safe with them. It's the human race who have forgotten who they are.
Right.
Forgotten why they're here. Sadly.
Behave now, Freya.
I think Barbara's raised her
Dino's
hand.
got a question. Dino.
There's such a lot to say.
Thank you.
I spent a lot of time with Lama Ganchen, who's a Tibetan Lama. He was actually a reincarnation of the medicine Buddha, and he produced from the ancient teachings, self-healing teachings, which is offered to the West. And he died of COVID. I'm not sure when, last year, March, April. I don't know what time of the year we're in at the minute even. And obviously he's gone on to, you know, he's done what he's meant to do. He's given these teachings to the West, and they're absolutely brilliant teachings. It's a condensation of all the major self-healing modalities from the Tibetan Buddhists, and they can be accessed quite easily. They're in Italy, and he was the most wonderful man, the most wonderful person. And for him to go of COVID is absolutely, it's a great teaching in itself, that somebody who was, as I say, a reincarnation of medicine Buddha and was a great healer should go in that way, just to show the world that, like, nobody's immune from the physical. And he's worth looking up anyway, you know, his work and his teachings, because you can get the teacher, you can follow the teachings online, simple processes.
There are wonderful teachings, Barbara, as well. I'm sure you are familiar with Lama Zopa.
I don't know Lama Zopa, no.
Oh gosh, he has produced for the Western world wonderful, wonderful books on the power of healing and using mantras and Tibetan spiritual practices in a more simplified form for the Westerner to empower
that's
us
what Lama Ganchen
for
has done,
self-healing and sending it out. And there are, well, I do a medicine Buddha practice, which is profound. Dino, you have a question or something to say?
Great, as ever, Pam, your talk always inspirational, very nice. I just admire all your research in all the religion that you do, and I like the thing that you said, that when we say our Father, they got the gender in it instead, like Allah and Elohim doesn't got it. I find that very, very interesting. And another thing,
is interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's another thing.
Because God is neither male nor female, but is everything. Yeah. Everything. There is within many spiritual traditions, and even within the Christians, the Holy Spirit that you may be, you know, Dino, most of us have heard of the Holy Spirit, but the Holy Spirit is actually a feminine energy.
Yeah.
But that's another story. They don't tell you that either.
Also, another thing. I think myself that in final analysis, all religion teaches the same thing.
Yes.
And because we are all on the scale of evolution, we got different temperament. And that's why this religion, they all come about to suit their own temperament, their own inspiration to live in this life. I think.
Yes. But I think, Dino, the essential truths, though, are the same. And it is the power of compassion that is the dynamic energy that we can all link into and use to help each other.
Yeah.
And it is the only hope for us humans on this planet, that we become more compassionate. Not easy, not saying it's easy, but that is the answer. Compassion, forgiveness, more tolerance, more patience, to help each other, to link up, to know we all belong, and that there is a knock-on. I mean, those of you who are aware of the Peace Mala project, our main message, which all the religions share, is the golden rule. Treat the next person as you wish to be treated yourself. Every religion, every spiritual path, every culture has that message. And this is why we've raised it up again for young people to be aware of it. It is an eternal truth that every single spiritual path shares. We've had a request, I'm just watching the clock, from Bishop Michael of the Liberal Catholic Church Grail community. Michael has asked if towards the end he'd like to lead us in a meditation and prayer, and I think that's a lovely idea. So it'll be over to Paul, wherever you are, I can't see you now, to tell us when
I was hoping, Pam, that you would lead the meditation and do the chant.
No. I thought you were offering, Michael.
Well, I could do, but I'd rather you do. It's certainly your chant.
My request, Pam, was, do you have a favourite prayer for Palm Sunday as it is?
Oh, it is Palm Sunday.
You could kind of share with us, or lead us in it.
We've got Michael here, who's a bishop.
I didn't know that, but I mean, you're the star of the show, Pam. You're the star of the show today.
Michael, I'm going to throw it back at Michael. He is a bishop of the Liberal Catholic Church Grail community.
Right.
He knows a great deal about Christian mysticism and theosophy. So, Michael, you brought it up. I'm giving it back to you, my friend. on Palm Sunday, I feel it would be very beautiful and appropriate that something came from you. I think so.
Yeah.
Are you happy with that, Michael?
You were saying a prayer, or I'd rather do a meditation, but in a way you've just...
Whatever, yeah, a meditation, a guided meditation for healing and blessing, compassion, love, linking everybody on this cosmic journey that we're all on. Yeah.
I think, Pam, in your talk, you did that. You connected all of us to the divine.
Oh.
So proving you don't really need a bishop.
No.
Bishops can do it, but you can do it yourself as well.
Well,
That's very profound.
I did say earlier on that I feel
do it.
Churches should teach. It should be within the church services a period of meditation, teaching people how to link with the divine within themselves and the absolute beyond, and the linking of everybody. I feel that would be a very beautiful thing for churches to introduce. That's what I think anyway.
Well, before we do anything, because I'm just going to, because I have another meeting in 10 minutes.
Okay.
I just want to just say thank you very much. We don't get before we do the meditation, and I have to announce that on the 11th of April, 2 weeks' time, Theosophist, well-known Theosophist Colin Boyce, who's worked for formerly many years at the lodge in London, will be giving the next webinar, and it will be Atlantis, the greatest riddle of mankind. So we're stepping back in time there to when we all lived in Atlantis.
A question just came up from Viv, who wanted to know the Aramaic prayer again. If you get the little book, yeah, that's it. If you get this little book, what I have spoken about this afternoon is in there, plus the Aramaic prayer of Jesus and the translation. And I have said, if you send an email to info@peacemala, all joined up, PEACEMALA, peacemala.org.uk, then we can get the little book off to you. And as I said earlier on, it is a little book meant to be used in study groups to share and discuss and explore. So it's there. Okay, it is in this book.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Michael, I think it's over to you.
How long do you want? Or did you say you have to go?
Yes, well, 10 minutes. I mean, what did you have in mind?
That'll fit in with the time frame. You want 10 minutes? Yeah,
10 minutes is good.
Okay, and just for those who don't know me, that obviously the Liberal Catholic Church Grow community is based on theosophical principles, so you're not going to get a terribly Christian form. It's just a general going back to the center, to the source. Okay. So, okay, if you're happy with that, so just try and keep it a bit less because you've got another meeting as well.
If everybody, apart from Michael, if everyone could mute themselves, please, so that we don't interrupt Michael guiding us. So if everybody could.
Okay, so if you'd like to, customary position for meditation, of course, I'm sure many of you are familiar. The Egyptian position, as it's often called, is sitting up straight with the feet on the ground. And again, taking some deep breaths to link to relax the physical body. Let the tension go that we often hold in the body. I'll go very fast through this Just breathe in and then just breathe out and let the tension go. As we're breathing in and breathing out, we realize that the body is not who we truly are. And as we relax, the etheric, the energy field, will also relax, as it were, and flow more fully. That's the template for the physical and the connection to the higher bodies. And then just focus on the heart for a moment. Imagine some pink flowing colors of goodwill, of love out into the world. And in so doing, we calm our emotions. And in that calm, you can now pay attention to our minds. The monkey mind is frequently jumping around, as it were. Now calm the mind. Whatever is important that it wants to attend to, say that's for later. Let it be calm for a moment. And take another deep breath through the nose and out through the mouth as we register that calm. And imagine our sacred space being calm and clear of all unhelpful thoughts and attachments. Anything that is not for our greatest good. Our sacred space above us, below us, behind us, beside us, before us. A sphere. As we are calm, we reach the higher mind, understand more deeply, and further on we go to the intuitive, the buddhi. In this sense of the one life, we see light and love. A light that is safe and warm and welcoming. Allow it to approach you. It is safe. Maybe you dare to enter that light. The light of the one. A light with no name. The light of the source, on which all things come. Just be in that light. One can affirm, I am the light. Let that light shine. There is no thing in this world beyond the one in the end. I am that light. Let the light shine. And then from this light, the one, the source, imagine the light streaming again into the whole universe, the universes. Through galaxy, through to the solar system, specifically, and through to this planet Earth. on which we are currently manifesting this light. And imagine that one light, that one love, that one life descending into all the particulars that we call the other person. Same light. Into all of nature and to the planet, the animal and plant life. Revivifying, inspiring as it descends further the minds of men to know this truth of humankind, to know the one life is all there is. Descending further into the heart, spreading love, goodwill, the essence of the one in action. Envelop this planet in love and light in its time of trial and change and new birth. Then descend further into the energy field. It is in harmony and health, in ease. And let it manifest on the physical plane. Descend even you, through your crown, down through the bodies, the head, the heart, the abdomen, through the legs to the earth. You are, I am, the divine being on this planet, in love and harmony. And just return your focus to your heart. Just affirm that you will bring this light and love in your daily lives and moments into manifestation. Then with some further deep breaths, when you're ready, open your eyes. Return to this time and place. Peace be with you.